And for those of you joining us on video, welcome back to our episode of Five Alarm Task Force. I'm your host, Steve Green. If you're on the audio, you already heard the intro. And today I'm really happy to bring back a returning guest. He's been on 3 times before because of the importance and the topic that he discusses. And if you read Firehouse Magazine, if you've been to the expos, Firehouse World, FDIC, any of the major and even regional conferences, you know Aaron Zamzow. Aaron, and I even continue to get his name correct because we had a joke back when we started. I called him every name except his name, Aaron. And then we go with his nickname, Zam.
Yep.
Aaron Zamzow has over 18 years of firefighting experience as an on-call paid firefighter in Golden Valley, Minnesota, and is currently a career firefighter EMT and training officer in Madison, Wisconsin. He is the owner of Fire Rescue Fitness, a company that creates workout programs and fitness articles that focus on getting fire rescue athletes fit for duty. Aaron holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Health and Wellness, is a certified strength and conditioning specialist, a National Academy of Sports Medicine certified personal trainer, an IAFF IAFC peer fitness trainer. He is a certified strength and conditioning specialist and a precision nutrition certified. He has also worked with the fitness industry for over 25 years and has experience working with a general population as well as athletes from the NBA, NFL, and NHL. He is the author of The Ultimate Fire Rescue Athlete Workout and other fitness programs catered toward fire rescue athletes, and has recently been published in Firehouse, Fire Rescue Magazine, Firefighter Nation, and in the PFFW, Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin Quarterly. In 2016, he presented at Firehouse Expo and Firehouse World. Firehouse Expo, Aaron headed and conducted the Firehouse Fit for Duty workouts and was a prominent speaker during the event. He has appeared on numerous radio and television programs and presents to fire departments all over the country. He lives by and teaches the motto, train like a life depends on it. And we've used that motto, Aaron. I can't tell you, I guess for the 4 years, this is our 5th season since you were last on, and it's great to have you back.
Well, thanks for having me, man. It's always great. It's funny. I wish sometimes we could record our conversations off air because I think that's where the a lot of stuff gets solved. But it's always great catching up with you, and we talk a little bit about what you went through and your health and kind of my own, and and that's I've gotten more certifications since we talked, and I've started writing a little bit for Lexapol and for FR1, and what people really, the one thing I guess people don't maybe understand is that all this stuff, like all these certifications, is really, it's kind of a selfish thing. But I'm 46, going to be 47. I got in the fire service late. I got into my mid 30s. So all this stuff that I've developed, I use personally. Like I kind of develop it for myself to keep me going. And, and that's really how FRF started, 10 years ago, was I made it through my academy at, 35, 36. I got started with on-call paid back when I was in my 30s. And I just realized that I wasn't training the way I should be for the fire service. I was very fortunate to have some friends that play in the NFL. I had some friends that played the NBA, and I got to work with them and train with them. And it's funny, when I work with my NFL guys, I set up based on what position they are and what they need to accomplish on the field. But when I first got the fire service, I just did a general workout. I was doing what everybody else was doing. And then I bought my first book that, I thought, hey, maybe I need to research a little bit more, because my first academy, I was not doing very well. I was getting beat, climbing ladders and dragging victims and carrying stuff up ladders. I wasn't very good at it. And, here I was, in the academy with carpenters and other people that, were doing that thing as their job. Right. And they're just beating me. And so it all started then, and I started to do research. I bought a book. Now this is 15 years ago, 12, 15, 18 years ago. And, it wasn't really oriented towards the firefighter as an athlete, or the first responder as an athlete. So that's when I started researching and thinking about, okay, my NFL guys, I take a look at, if they need to work on foot speed, if they're a defensive back, so we train accordingly. If my NBA guys, are they a rebounder? Are they a shooter? And so I just kind of took a step back and looked at, firefighting as an athletic event, and how do you train for it? And that's really what sparked all of this. And it's really selfish, because it's what I needed. I always tell people I'm kind of like, I don't know if you remember the movie Rudy.
Oh, sure.
I got to work twice as hard as everybody else, because I'm not very athletic. But I think that's where my training helps out a lot. Is, I always tell people, look, I'm going to stay with you for the first bottle, and then the second bottle, I'm going to start beating you a little bit, because that's where fitness can take over. So, the intro is really great. I'm like, God, I've done, I guess I got that certification. I got that. And the motivation behind it really was to help myself. And then through this whole process, and through meeting people like yourself, people want to know, well, what do you do? And how does that work? And so it's been a great, 10-year journey. And I appreciate the opportunities, that you've given me to talk about it a little bit more. So it's great to be here. And, we're still going strong, and as are you, and that's awesome. So, I can't wait to talk about a little bit more fitness.
Right. Well, the thing is this, when we first brought you on, and I had started the podcast in 2016, and we had, in talking with some friends, well, they were friends then, but the ones who pushed me into doing this podcast. That's from social media, but no, they're still friends. But I had to think, what did I want to address in the podcast? I didn't want to just do willy-nilly and just say, well, I'll get anybody I can get. I want to have a mission statement for the podcast. Just as we did, we actually just recently created the mission statement for the new nonprofit, Five Alarm Task Force Corp. And that statement is one family, one mission, first responders helping each other. That says it all. That's what it's about. This is what the nonprofit's about. So but I had help with that. And when I was thinking for the podcast, I came up with firefighter health, wellness, fitness for duty was very big. And then as I learned more about the Firefighter Cancer Initiative and the Firefighter Behavioral Health Initiative, and that's the wagons we've been on. I just a couple of weeks ago, I had the honor of interviewing Dr. Graham Peasley from Notre Dame, the scientist who did all this research on the PFAS and PFOS in our bunker gear, and found that it is there and it is hurting us as firefighters. Next week, I'll have the honor of interviewing attorney Rob Bilott. A lot of people don't know him by name, but if you saw the movie Dark Waters, which talked about the Flint, Michigan water disaster, Mr. Bilott was the attorney who took that case on and wound up with hundreds of $1 million settlement that the perpetrator of the water taint had caused. And now he's taking on firefighter cause with the PFAS and PFOS. And not only just firefighters, he's doing every firefighter. He wants to represent in a class action every firefighter since 1977, which is when I started, and every American citizen since 1977. Because of the Teflon, these same products were in Teflon in our cooking pans, off-gassing every time we made an egg or something like that, fried potatoes, whatever we cooked, that stuff was off-gassing that to every person using it. So these are the people, and bringing you on, and the whole goal has been bringing great teachers on and mentors and leaders in the fire industry. And we've had other people on, on different aspects of health. But I think that looking back, and that's why I reached out to you a couple of weeks ago, was that some of those guests, we talked about fitness in general, but nobody addresses it in the same way that you do. That being a firefighter is really no different than being a professional athlete.
No.
And that you can't just expect, well, I'm on 24, off 48, so I can do what I want in the 48 because I only work, 2.5 days a week. So,
Yeah.
so what's the big deal? I got to take care of the kids. I got to help the wife. I got to do the honey-do list. And they don't realize, they'll scarf down a meal real fast, or they'll go out and get fast food. And they just think that during those 48 hours, they're free. They're unencumbered other than family issues if they don't have another job or their own business. That can't be the case, though. We have to continue to push the point that you have to be a firefighter. Again, and this doesn't make any difference whether you're career or volunteer, part pay, paid on call, whatever. You have to be a firefighter athlete 24/7, because that bell doesn't ring. Those pages don't go off only when you're working,
right,
or when you're ready for it. They go off whenever there's an alarm that needs the fire service, fire rescue there, and you have to be ready to do that.
It would be great if we could say, hey, Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones, could your house start on fire at 10 o'clock at night, so I know I'm ready for it. And it doesn't happen. And your point about whether it's volunteer or career, I was in Minnesota a year ago, and I was presenting up in Minnesota to an organization, and they're a career and they were volunteer there. And I had someone ask a question. You're like, okay, so it's great. We were talking about fitness programming for the first responder, and they're like, well, what about somebody who's volunteer? Do they need to do that? And I said, I said, that's a great question. A lot of people ask that, and I said, but let me ask you this. Does a car fire in a rural area that's got a volunteer department versus, one in a major metropolitan, does that car fire, is that different? Is a house fire in a small town different than a house fire in a larger town? And I said, our calls don't discriminate. As a matter of fact, I believe, in these smaller areas where you're volunteer, you really need to be in shape, because you may not have as much help. You may not have as many protocols and SOGs in place to watch out for your health. So you really have to advocate for that. It was really interesting because a lot of people in that room at that time kind of went, okay. And they drew themselves in. They're like, all right, now I'm kind of more bought into what you're saying here, buddy. And I agree 100%. And I even think, as I've gotten more involved in the first responder realm, but as I'm getting older, I think too, like, moms and dads and a lot of different professions, if we all started to think a little bit more about our health determines a lot of our aspects of our lives, meaning, if I'm a mom, I have 3 kids running around, you need a lot of energy, right? And you need to you're lifting kids left and right, and that you kind of need to work out, I think in that case, when you have 3 kids mentally, right. It's really good for your mental health, but they're also putting a stress and strain on your body that you really need to understand about. And, and that's a big picture, kind of advantage in looking down at it. But, I believe that there's, carpenters and everybody's got some type of thing that they should be physically prepared for. And, firefighting is, I think it's more in your face. I always have an argument, and I should say argument, a great friend of mine, John Hoffman, says, hey, Aaron, I don't know. I don't necessarily believe that we're athletes per se. And, and that kind of went into, I get it, because we don't really have a score. We don't have, a skill set, one particular skill set. And this kind of evolved. And John and I kind of went back and forth. And when we were done, we kind of looked at it and said, if anything, we have an athletic mindset, because when we're going into a call, our goal is maybe to mitigate that particular call, and we got to do whatever we can physically, mentally to do that, and as safely as possible. And I think that's the same kind of thing as an athlete. And so we kind of agreed, we're like, we may not have necessarily a playing field, but I kind of believe that we do. Right. Our playing field is that rescue scene. And again, there's no score, but the score is that you get to go do it again. You're not injured, and you're not fatally injured, or I should say dead in some cases. So right. That's really, kind of the mindset, and everything you put into your body and everything you do, you need to think about that a little bit more. And I wish more firefighters would do that. I actually wish a lot more chiefs would do that, because that would start to trickle its way down. Right. And that's not happening.
No, I was going to bring up in the discussion, and I'm glad you just said that, because oftentimes in the videos, that come across Periscope and other social media. A lot of these fires I've seen are from the volunteer companies, and you see the chief officers. Many of them are obese. Um, they don't wear an air pack when they're in the warm zone. Their bunker coat is open, and you get to see that they are obese and they're not physically fit. See some of the firefighters that way too, as they're putting on their gear because they didn't put it on before they boarded their apparatus. Again, that all depends on SOGs for that department. But the fact is that all too often we see um, members of fire, of law enforcement, and EMS who are just really in poor physical shape to do the job that we have to do. And that rolls us into the topic that we touched on before we just came on the air to record, which is the effect that the pandemic has had on fitness in general with the people that you interact with, or people get back to you. And the fact that we've seen, very sadly, that those who are obese and think they have no other underlying medical problems were often the ones that we lost to COVID-19, because that obesity is a major underlying problem. And we've seen it, sadly, we've seen it be in families around the country. It's been on the national news night. Three members of one family were lost. I remember this one was in Texas, and there was another one in New Mexico. But all the family members were obese, and we weren't, I guess, in a place medically where we knew how to really reach out and get that out of them, or help them to survive the COVID, so that they could maybe recuperate and understand the danger they were in because of that obesity. So and of course it's still around, no matter what some people say. It's still here. We still have to mask up. It's still important, both to protect others and to protect yourself. There was somebody on social media the other day who said the masks are fake. They can't stop the virus. Well, scientifically, we have from the CDC that if there's 3-layer ply in the masks, then yes, if it's sewn correctly, they can stop the virus from penetrating or exiting the mask. So, but I wasn't going to start arguing. I don't do anything political online. I don't take any positions. But I've had friends here, right close to us, our home, who were affected. One of them, her sister was sick. She's over COVID-19, but she's not better yet. She still has a lot of health problems. So what have you seen with the people that you normally interact with on a regular basis? What have you been seeing during the pandemic?
Yeah, it's so back in March, April, end of March is really when we started to see this. From us right away, we were thrown we were in the front lines. So, I think a lot of the attention was first on PPE, how can we protect ourselves, protect our families. And now as it's going on, I mean, it's still here. I wear mask and a face shield on every call, and it's changed the way we respond. But I think there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that isn't being said. I believe not said enough. In that, you mentioned obesity is one of the links to those people that have COVID and get it very and have a hard time with it, because obesity puts a lot of strain on the body. Poor nutrition puts a lot of strain on the body. A lack of exercise puts a strain on the body, and I think stress and mental health. And so one of the first things I saw was the people that are fit and do exercise started to scramble. Like, what can I do now? I can't go to a gym. Firehouses closed all their workout rooms down because they didn't want the spread. And I agree with those movements. I think that we had to do that. So, for me personally, back in March, everybody was kind of shut down, and I was getting emails because a lot of my programs, some of my programs, I should say, that I offer with FRF, some of them require gym access. You need a bar, you need dumbbells. Some of them use more body weight things where you can use a suspension training system, even like a piece of webbing where you can do rows and presses and curls and such. And those are some programs that people can do at home. But what I was getting is a lot of emails like, hey, I'm following this program, your ultimate program, and I don't have access to a gym. What can I do? So honestly, because I was in lockdown for 2 weeks, like everyone else, I have a little studio here in my house, just a little area, and I created a 40-day program that, get FRF in 40 days from home. And all you needed was like a plate weight or a dumbbell. If you didn't have that, you could take a milk jug, fill it with water, a piece of webbing. You could throw it up over a door, and you had an actual training system. And so I offered that to a lot of my members, and I said, look, don't let COVID get in the way of your fitness. Right now, we need it more than ever for mental health, number one, and our fitness, fitness and your level of fitness and nutrition actually help with your immune system. Keeping your immune system strong helps us deal with stress. So, at that point, I was really trying to just push people like, don't let this, figure out a way to take a walk. You can't catch COVID by yourself walking around, right? We know that. We know that if you're working out, work out in an isolated area of your house. So I created this workout program, and it really kind of took off. I mean, a lot of people downloaded it. I got a lot of great emails and feedback. And one of the ones that stands out in my mind is I had someone email me from, I think they were actually from Florida, just said, hey, thanks for creating this because I felt helpless. I felt like I had nowhere to go. And this at least gave me something. And that helped me mentally. And now that, we're 40, 60 days into this, I feel like I can repeat this program and I have alternatives. And, so that was the first thing that I saw was people just felt like, whoa, what do I do? I know health is important. Give me something here. Give me something that I could do. So that program, and we'll actually offer it. I think you're going to leave a link in the bio section for this. And I'm still offering that program. I think I actually followed that. Again, all this stuff was like, I kind of looked at myself. I'm like, well, what can I do? I had equipment here, but I wanted to kind of put myself in a position where someone who didn't have it, what did they feel? What could they do? So first and foremost, we created that program, and I think we have like over 10,000 people using it throughout the world right now. And so that was really cool for me to see. And the response from that was very positive. And I think that led into other things. So the first thing we saw was, where do I go? What do I do for workouts? Fire departments scrambling, closing their fitness centers down. Now, as we learned more about about COVID, I think some firehouses, they're still restricting it, but they're putting, strict guidelines on when you can use firehouses, workout facilities, which I highly encourage, by the way. If you're a chief listening to this, create a way to make sure that you can get and you promote your people staying healthy. Because the other thing that happens in this, right, Steve, there was also a financial crunch going on.
Oh, absolutely.
So what did most departments do? Well, they cut any spending for education on health and wellness. They cut any spending on equipment. They cut any spending on health. And I repeatedly shake my head and go, what message do you send your members when you don't want to spend, like $100 to give someone an alternative to working out at the firehouse, and I think that's gotten better that since, as we've gone on, we realize this is a longer term approach to it. So first and foremost is, what do I do? Secondly, it started to lead into mental health. I think a lot of people felt frustrated and,
very true.
The stress and strain of it. So that was the other thing that I started to do some research on. You mentioned, off air, I just did an article in September for Firehouse, and it was about the mental health and exercise connection. And what a lot of us don't realize is that 20-minute walk, how that helps with not only endorphins, but stress relief, and how that leads to better decision making, how that leads to better mood, right? Like,
Right. Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
if you
I
don't,
live that. I know what it's like. I mean, I went through that, in 2017 when I lost the weight, and it's funny. I was down to a 38 waist, and those shorts are too big for me, so I'm wearing belts that have to be tucked under.
great
But
feeling.
my wife is concerned. She goes, "Well, why are you losing weight?" I said, "Tell you the truth, I really don't think I'm losing weight because I feel fine, other than my back." I said, "I feel fine. I think what's happening is the last fat that your body gets rid of, and I forget the name. It begins with an A. Is right on the belly.
Adipose. Yep.
Adipose fat. Right.
Yep.
It's the last fat that the body uses for fuel. Well, I've been taking probably for a year Garcinia, and Garcinia helps by taking fat from the body and letting it pass out as waste. And so I said to her, I said, I think the reason why it's not that I'm losing weight per se. It's because when I take off my shirt and I couldn't stand still seeing that tire, in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
We
I've
all get
noticed
it.
that tire is
Yeah.
smaller than it used to be. So I said to her, I said, I think it's that adipose fat that the Garcinia is helping me with, and the other stuff I'm doing to keep active, and I'm getting rid of that fat in the front, and that's allowing me to wear a smaller waist size. Not that I'm losing my body, I'm not. Yes, I'm getting older. I'm almost getting close to 69, and yes, I have the wrinkles but that was because of when I was heavier, I stretched my skin and my muscle. When you lose that weight, for most, especially if you're older like me, you're just going to have to deal with the wrinkling of the skin and stuff like that. That's just part of it. But the feeling you get when you're feeling better by having less weight is the best euphoria you can have.
Yeah.
There is nothing like going to shop for a pair of slacks or a jacket that's smaller than you've ever worn before. That's
Yeah.
exciting. That,
It
that
is. And even taking that back a step further, a step back is when you're exercising or you're going for a walk, I think the other thing is that you feel like you have a little bit of control. And in the pandemic, that's the first thing everybody
awesome.
felt like they lost. And that's why I really believe that this, you can still control your nutrition. You can still control your exercise. You can always open the door and go for a walk. And then, providing this Get FRF in 40 day was another alternative. Like, well, if you don't want to open the door, take a corner of your house, and here's something else you can do. And then we also included, I threw in some nutrition. Shouldn't say I threw. I wrote and created some, guidelines on how to stay fit at home, how to make better choices. But it comes back to control, and then that control leads to better choices, which leads to weight loss, which leads to this, like you were talking about, this feeling like, hey, I'm still making progress. I'm still in control of my health, and it's working, and it's there's no better feeling. As a matter of fact, when I was doing research for the article, that exercise euphoria is actually better for you than any medication. And there's research that shows that, people who are on mental health medications, that 3 bouts of consistent exercise, note I said consistent,
Right.
can be better for you mentally than any, Prozac or any other mental health drug without the side effects. So, the importance of exercise, especially now with this pandemic, should not be forgotten. It actually should be promoted. And I wish, not just for the first responder community, but I really wish people would talk about COVID linked to mental health and then linked to your general health, right? Right now, everything is being overshadowed with masks and, how are we gonna distribute this when we, get a vaccination, and will you take it, and all these other things, and then you have these dramatic stories of somebody had no underlying conditions and they got COVID and they died, or they did something, and it's just this drama, right? It's all about that impact. But what's going on untalked about is, look, we have a problem with obesity. We have a problem with obesity in the fire service. We have a problem with poor nutrition in the U.S. We also have a problem with poor nutrition in the fire service. And I think that's the link that's not being talked about. Now let's change it real quick. If we talk about cancer, cancer in the fire service is probably going to be the leading cause of death, I believe, in the next couple of years. But look at what causes cancers. I mean, obviously, we had talked about the PFAS, and our environments cause cancer. The stress causes cancer. But what's one of the best ways to combat it? Fitness, nutrition,
Right.
right? Yet, what do most firehouses or most fire departments do? They buy wipes, and I've even had saunas, right? They buy wipes and saunas. That doesn't fix the problem.
No.
That doesn't do anything than put a Band-Aid on it for a couple of months. And so, not only do we see this in the fire service, we see this in society in general, because look, it's not easy. I mean, fitness is a journey, and there's good times and there's bad times with it. There's times where you're winning, there's times where you're losing, right?
Very true.
And it's not sexy, and but it's the truth. And, and I think you believe in it. That's why you have me on, is because you get me all fired up, and I'm going to go off on it.
Well, I mean, I do. I think, as I said at the opening, you embody the mission statement of the podcast, which is firefighter health, wellness, and fitness for duty. And, and I think that's that last one, fitness for duty, is the one that is least considered. Mm-hmm. Everybody, health, yeah, I got to make sure I'm healthy. I don't have cancer. I don't have this. And wellness, well, okay, I'm okay every day. So I had a cold 3 months ago, and that's what they stop. They think that that's all the definition. My son-in-law's dad, who lives down here most of the year, but they were in New York, he has been a fitness person from his young age. He even had a club in New York City. He had a fitness gym that he owns over there. He works out with weights every day. So this year, just before the pandemic, he's out bowling with his gang, his friends, and he trips over the ball return and he breaks his internal tib fib fracture. Mm-hmm. Luckily, they were closed fractures, number one, and they barely moved, number two. So he had to go to the hospital. He had to get the cast on, special cast, and his friends leased one of these chairs that could recliner and then help had him get up. But he wasn't satisfied with that. He told his son, my son-in-law, he says, I want you to go buy me some weights. I want to do upper body stuff. So he would sit in that lounger and he would start doing his weights every day, twice a day, every day. He was doing it. And then get him, and I'd hear from my son-in-law. I said, how's your dad doing? He goes, he's doing fine, except he has to go buy some more weights.
Yeah, right. Which were hard to come by. Actually, everybody was buying weights at the time.
There was, right, in April, it was very difficult.
It was very difficult. Yeah.
He ordered one of the Olympic gym benches to put in their sunroom. He had to wait, I think, 6 weeks before that was delivered.
Yep.
But he says he's not going back to the gym that he belonged to. He's now set up the gym that he needs right in the sunroom in their place here in Florida. And his leg is healed. He still has some problems with it, but every day he's up there doing that. And he's one of those guys that could use a corrective shirt. If he turns sideways, he disappears. He's thin, he's muscular, but it's not, he doesn't work out for bulging muscles. He works out to keep himself in shape for over 50 years. He's been doing it for his health. Mm-hmm. And I thought about, what an example he set, even for me, that it was so important to him, even with a busted leg, fractured in 2 places, and all the discomfort and all the change in daily life it incurred, he still said, I got to stay healthy. I got to stay well in my head. If I can't do my lower body, I'll do my upper body for now, and I'll balance it out. And then when I get back and I can start working with my legs and my hips and my knees, I'll start doing that, which he's been able to do slowly. So what you say is, here's a guy has nothing to do with first responder emergency calls, but this has been a part of his life since he was 18 years old, and here he is at 70 doing the same thing. It's just that it would have been a good excuse to just sit back in that chair and watch TV. Right. They're not doing anything. He didn't want it. He started with milk bottles, and then he decided he wanted to go with the weights.
Yep.
And he continues to do so, and he's made recovery.
I'm sure he would tell you that a lot of it's mental more than and I know, like, for me, I need to at least be active, or else, I don't feel like I am at my best. I don't feel like I respond well in stressful situations when I don't work out. I feel like I'm probably a little more short with those around me, and I personally, just I know what effect it has on me, and in that it causes me to think a lot more clearly, and I feel like I'm a better person. And you had mentioned too, like, the one thing that I've had when I used to train just in gyms before I got involved in fire service, a lot of people would use their children as an excuse to not work out. Meaning, oh, I got to go take Bobby or Susie to this, and I got to take Billy to this, and I can't find a workout today because, I have to help so-and-so with their homework. And I understand that. Those are stresses of being a parent. But the other thing that I always I just want people to think about is, what example do you set your children? If you're unhealthy and you don't make time for fitness and you don't make time for yourself, your children might be doing the same thing, or will be doing the same things, because we have a problem with childhood obesity as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like, I mean, anybody can Google that and they'll look. And I think a part of that is parents setting that example. If you look in the fire service, I think it's the same damn thing. You got a lot of chiefs up there that don't give hey, I'm a chief. I don't really need to work out as much as my other guys. Well, chief, do you understand that by working out, you help your cognitive skills, and those can improve by up to like 15 to 20% just by working out? And aren't you the one making the decisions on the fire ground that are about me and my life? So to me, it's no different. And then I'm not saying that, when we talk about workouts, I think people go, well, I don't have an hour. You don't need an hour. A 15-minute walk with your dogs is a great way to start. 15-minute walk with your kids is a great way to start. Then that turns into some push-ups and some rows, with a piece of webbing in the corner. Then that turns into some flexibility. Then that turns into eating healthy. And then that turns into, oh my God, I lost a little bit of weight. And that turns into sending a good example for those people underneath you, whether it's your kids, firefighters, the community. And I think that we get so, drawn into our day-to-day, well, I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to do that. You need to take that second or two to, work on your own self, work on your own health, work on your own mental health, even meditation. Now, that was the other thing we had talked about, during the pandemic.
Right.
I started to do some research on yoga and meditation and how important that is for firefighters. Now, I include that as part of fitness. As a matter of fact, in my new programs, I'm integrating in a day of, I call it stretching, but it's really yoga. It's yoga and meditation, but I call it, firefighter stretching and breathing. And it's just a way to let yourself decompress a little bit, get your mind right, go off into a corner for 5 or 10 minutes by yourself and just be quiet. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the other part that we need to emphasize through this pandemic. And, I've gotten some great feedback for people like, hey, so I created a 10-minute yoga thing, that routine that I do. And it's, I'm not a yogi or whatever, but this is just something that I found that this just helps give me a little bit of energy, gives me a little bit of ground, and get my mind right. And I think, when you look at the pandemic and you look at the stress that's going on, we got an election going on, we got a lot of protests going around. First responders, we're thrown in the middle of that. And right. You got to find a way to manage your stress. Fitness is great for that. Proper nutrition is really imperative. And then if you throw in a little bit of mindfulness, man, you're going to be doing okay. Right. And you will have control of something, and that's your own health. And I think, that's the biggest thing I found through the pandemic. Again, we'll give you some tools to help you with that, with a link to this Get FRF program. And, I really believe that hopefully some people, when they're listening to this, are like, he's right. I hate what he's saying, because it's the truth, and it's not easy. Right.
It's not. And sometimes you're thrown into it. Sometimes you choose it. And that's what I did almost 4 years ago. I chose to make a difference because I was tired of being so heavy. And once I saw that one number of 240 on the scale, I just knew I had to get out of there. I just had to get rid of it. And I was very lucky, and I did, and I've generally, if you take my back out of the picture, I am much better than I ever was before.
Mhm.
I walk, I do walk the dog first thing in the morning. Usually at least one more time during the day. My wife likes to reserve the evening one for herself to give her a chance to walk. And then, as a matter of fact, she's just recovering from this knee surgery, and the therapist said yesterday, she's making remarkable progress. The surgery was 1 week ago today. Yesterday, she reached just over 90 degrees with that same
Oh,
knee.
with that, yep,
Yeah,
flexibility.
with the
Yeah.
flex. And the therapist said the reason why she's doing so well is because the surgery was postponed because of the surge down here. So we lost supposed to be in like the end of July, second week of August, but it got postponed to now. But she's in the pool during the day, every weekend, and then most evenings, she'd go in the pool for an hour doing her walking and jogging in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
And the therapist said that conditioned her leg to go through this injury much healthier than
Yep.
had she not. And that's why she's doing such a great job with her recovery, because her quads and both her legs are nice and strong due to that prep. And even though she wasn't assigned any pre-op stuff, she took it on her own to do.
Yeah. The
And
better shape you go into those, the better shape you're going to come out of them. I mean, the quicker and the less complication. Same thing with COVID, we're finding, I think, too. Like, if you're in good shape, you have a healthy immune system, you're going to come out of that better than those that are, obese and battling other health issues. And,
right.
I mean, that's the big thing, too, in the fire service. Look, we've learned injuries don't discriminate. I mean, you can reduce your instances and your chances of it, but sometimes, hey, you step off a curb with a patient, boom, and I've had that tweak in my back.
Yep.
And thought, oh boy, is this the time? But I was able to go back, do some foam rolling, do some preventative work, and I was fine. Didn't miss a shift, didn't miss a beat. Now, if I didn't work out, would I've probably pulled that out of? Yeah, I mean, there's instances where I found that. So I think, that exercise is another reason, is that when this stuff happens, you're going to be better off fighting it. So there's
Right.
so many reasons to do it. You just, and I think that goes into our next section, which is finding something that motivates you to do it. And that's where we could talk about an event that we have planned and some other things that I'm doing with FRF.
Sounds good. All right. So, folks, on the audio, we're going to take a break here. On the video, it's going to seem like we never went anywhere, but we'll be right back right after these words. Please stay tuned. And welcome back to my interview with my good friend, Aaron Zamzow, from the greater Madison, Wisconsin area, where he has, over the years, created terrific programs for fitness and really general health. First, just for his friends and sports clients, and then as he got involved with the fire service, giving that same attention to the fire service. And so we talked about in the first section, if you missed it, our first segment, we talked about in general what's going on, plus the fact of how this pandemic has interfered with what we do to keep ourselves healthy and what we can do to avoid that and keep on track with doing the best we can do under the circumstances that we're facing now. But now we're going to get into a little better situation. We're going to talk a little bit about more fitness. We're going to talk about nutrition, and we're going to talk about a new program that he has coming up. Plus, again in January, for about the gazillionth year, he's going to have his big contest, national contest, where there is cash prizes for the top 3 and the top 5.
Top 5.
Top 5.
Yeah. And it's still trying to conjure it up a little bit, talking to some other companies maybe about helping out with sponsorship of the event, and even tossed around doing 100,000-pound challenge to the fire service. So that's one of the different things that I'm trying to throw around and create, as we get closer to January, things, and hopefully I can be on one more time once I figure it out.
Sure.
As we launch,
always welcome, right? Always welcome here.
Well, and I appreciate that. And we talked a little bit off the air about, objects in motion have a tendency to stay in motion. I think it was Einstein's, theory on that. And, I think the same thing goes for fitness. But sometimes it's hard to figure out what's going to get us in motion, like what's going to motivate us. And so FRF, that's one of the things that over the last couple of years I've been trying to really hone in on what really motivates you. We had talked in the first half, in the first segment about, look, if you're a dad, if you're a chief, if you're an officer, the motivation should be right in front of you. When you look up, you see your kids, you see your crew members, you see the members that that you're supposed to be supporting and leading. I mean, right there, hopefully that's one thing to say, look, I got to be at my best to show them the way and to set the example on it. No, it's tough. And a lot of times, there are these different distractions. There's all these different things going on right now in society. So it's really easy to get, swayed away from that.
Right.
And right, Steve, you and I both, we go through our ups and downs.
For sure.
And me especially. So one thing I did back in August is, I'll give you a real kind of 30-second reason for it. Is I have a member with FRF who has lost about 145 pounds. He started over 400 pounds. He's now about 290, 280, working his way down there. He started doing triathlons because the weight loss motivated him to a certain point, and now he's like, wait a minute, I want to show people that I could still be healthy and I could continually work on my weight loss. And so his name is Josh Folk, and Josh did a half Ironman this year. And last September, he lives down in Illinois. He drove up. He said, Aaron, I know you haven't run in a while. We did a 5K event, and so that kind of got me started. Well, maybe I'll start running a little bit. Now, to preface this, I did the Ironman in 2011 on September 11th, and I was really burned out of running. I really didn't run after that a lot. I didn't do a lot of biking. I did more metabolic work with FRF and with intervals, and so I was staying, cardiovascularly fit. I just didn't run. I did other things. I would bike, and so the last year or so, he started getting my ear. He's like, hey, what about doing like a little 5K event or do something? And so I started to run a little bit. One day I just got my dogs. I started running. I actually enjoyed it. I didn't run far. I would run and walk. And at the same time, I was getting people now emailing me about, well, now that the pandemic's hit, I know I got a program. I'm losing some motivation. So that kind of all came together to have me create what's called the 5K the FRF way. It's a virtual event. We're running it right now. It's to benefit the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, which is, if you don't know, they're an organization that not only honors those that we've lost, but they've put a lot of resources and efforts into creating programs to educate and to really combat those health and fitness issues and safety issues that we battle in the fire service. So I've reached out to them and said, hey, I want to do this event. What do I have to do? And anyways, we launched September 18th. We're just starting our third week. We have about 200 people that have signed up through the world. We have some people, a crew in Australia that's doing it, a couple crews in Canada, and then here in the US. And we've raised so far about $2,000 for, I was just doing the numbers, about, $1,500 so far for the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. But what this is, it's a 5K event. It's broken up into different increments. So there's a couple of options. You can do a 2-mile walk. If we talked about just get up and get moving. If that's your goal, 2-mile walk's perfect. You can do a 5K walk or run. So if you wanted to start running a little bit, you could do the 5K walk or run, or you could do this 5K plus 343 reps. It's a 5K run with 343 reps of various exercises. So you run like a half mile, you do 50 push-ups. You run a half mile, you do 50 rows. You run a half mile, you do 50 squats. These are all body weight. You don't have to do them all in a row. You could do like 10, take a little rest, do another 10, and then you go run your half mile. But total, it's a 5K event with these 343 reps. For me personally, I did it because I needed a goal. I needed something to work towards, right? And I think we all do.
Oh, sure.
And, as I launched this, I realized there's a lot of other people that were excited just to have something to work towards. It's a little bit more difficult than your traditional 5K, yet it's obtainable. So I'm really having fun. We created or I created an actual workout program. So if you join right now, you'll get 8 weeks of training to lead you up to the event. So the virtual event is going to be held November 15th through the 30th, which in this day and age, virtual events have become very popular
Sure.
because we can't do them in person. So you could do this event anywhere from the 15th to the 30th. You can do it in your home, in your studio, at your firehouse, anywhere you want, and anytime during that time frame. I got some friends that are doing it. They hunt, so they're big hunters, so they're leaving like the 18th, so they're going to do it on the 15th. Me personally, I'm going to probably do it a couple of times, but I'll do it Thanksgiving morning at the firehouse with my crew. I'll do it once with my family before I eat Thanksgiving dinner. And, it's just a fun way to be able to give back to the fire service through the
Right.
National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. The shirts are probably, you register an event, you get a shirt, you get a finisher sticker. First On Socks has donated some wristbands and some products. Silver Star Nutrition has donated some product for prizes. And you get a shirt, you get the stickers, and then you get this training program. Because part of this is to get people to think more about, I'm a first responder, fitness is really important for me. And here's a program that's not only going to help you perform better on the fire ground, it's going to help you with this event as well. And so I combined those two things together, and we've had a great response so far. It's been fun. For me personally, I'm training for the event and then answering questions. I had a couple of emails this morning about people that are like, hey, I'm going to do this with my son. And he's getting charged up over being able to help, what I do as a first responder. So, I think that goal is really is a huge part of it. And so what we try to do now with FRF is give you some goals to work towards with this event. And, I talked about it sometimes, Steve, like it's tough to get out that door in the morning.
Sure.
But you got to find what motivates you. And for you now have your daughter and grandkids too. Is that right?
Son-in-law.
That's there.
No grandkids yet. No, just
No.
my daughter and son-in-law.
Daughter and son-in-law. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Just before the pandemic hit.
Yeah, but when the grandkids come, if they come, you're going to be ready. That's motivation, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the fact is that not only did they move down, but they're in very close proximity to us, so we get to see them very frequently, and that builds the family dynamic. I know that for my family growing up, as my older brother's 5 years older, he was gone early from the house, and then I left. I was living in different parts of the country. My younger brother was the one who stayed in the greater Boston area. My parents were down in Florida for a while, but they had to move back because of my dad's health. And even if my dad passed, my mom stayed there until she passed. And I understood what they went through because only my younger brother was there, and from to see my older brother, to see me and our families, it was a big to-do. It had to be either a big family gathering that could bring us in or whatever. And I understand now, having them move from New York City right before the major part of the pandemic hit. So I was thankful they were here in South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand what my parents endured more. And so, because we weren't around, they only had one of their 3 children around, and the grandchildren weren't around. Luckily, my mom was down here during the winters for a number of years, so she got to see my daughters when they were young, and they would spend time with her. But having our daughter and son-in-law close now, and still looking at our other daughter who's in the Boston area and hopefully is looking to try to find someone to come down back to Florida, it gives a stronger tie to that family dynamic because we see each other every couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I stop over to help them with the dog or they come here to do something, whatever. It's just a different dynamic when the family can be together. And I think that, again, as you said, that's motivation to stay well and keep doing what I've been doing. And As I said before we went on air, I'm not actively looking to lose weight. I eat 2 strong meals a day. My breakfast is very important to me, and a dinner. And I'm balancing dinner. I've added more salad to my dinners, and good veggies, sweet potatoes instead of white potatoes, and broccoli and cauliflower, all that kind of stuff. And my wife says, "Well, that's not enough for you." I said, "It is, because I'm full.
Mm-hmm.
If my
Right.
body tells me I'm full, then I don't have to eat anymore because somebody else wants me to.
Right.
My body
Right.
says, okay, that's good, and I don't want to overeat, and I don't want to have an upset stomach at night, because I deal enough with the back stuff at night, so I don't need anything else to impinge on that. So I'm happy with what I eat, and I snack once in a while. I buy a bag of Twizzlers, and maybe every other day I'll have 2 Twizzler sticks. Eat in the office right about 2:30, 3 o'clock for that little sugar boost in midday. But it's only two or three.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't bother it. I don't feel guilty for it, because I'm still doing my other stuff right.
Yeah.
And I think people forget that when you're on a path, it doesn't mean that you have to stay on that path 1000%. You can take a step off and then come back onto that path again. And you can step off maybe with 2 feet for something really special, but then
Mm-hmm.
you can come back again. The goal has to be, I want to stay on that path as frequently and as well as I can. You
Right.
don't have to worry about, yes, there are going to be diversions. We all have diversions in life. We can't predict those. Some we can, most we can't. So we deal with them. And then we come back to that path and get on it again and stay with it. That's the way I look at it. And it's,
Yeah.
definitely it's made, for a guy who was morbidly obese, high blood pressure, was on medication for 7 years. I've been off the medication for 9 years. No blood pressure medication at all.
That's
Doc,
awesome.
I'm on a statin. Why? I don't know. My cholesterol's been generally very good. I'm with a new primary care, so I don't know. So he put me on the statin. I'm not. It doesn't bother me. That's what he wants. I don't eat. I don't eat fatty stuff.
Yep.
I don't eat chicken skin. My mother-in-law, may she rest in peace, thought that chicken skin was the most dangerous thing you could put in your body, and she was real thin, but sweetheart of a lady. And both my in-laws were Holocaust survivors, so I really treasured what she said to me, and I stopped eating that way back when, and that was in the 80s. I stopped
Yeah.
putting salt on food in the 80s because I had heard that it's just really not good for you. You don't need it. There's enough salt in what we eat. So
That's when the low fat stuff started coming out too.
yeah,
The low fat free foods.
yeah. And
In the 80s, yeah.
stopped eating anything with fat, with salt. Um, I cut down red meat to maybe once every 4 to 6 weeks, and I loved red meat. We had steak every Monday night in my house growing up as a kid, but I didn't eat it. I love chicken. I love turkey. I love seafood. I love fresh fish, fresh salmon, fresh cod from up northern waters. Love that stuff, and I can have a great meal with by eating healthy. I can have a
Oh,
nice
very healthy. Yeah.
of cod with a little bit of low fat margarine on it, sprinkled with some paprika, and a nice salad with a low fat dressing, and a sweet potato. That's a good dinner for me, and I'm happy with it. And it's fulfilling. I don't feel stuffed or bloated, and I'm okay. And I still walk the dog, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And what you mentioned too, sometimes you cheat, meaning you can have what you want. And, what we talk about a lot with our programming is you either follow the 80-20 rule or the 90-10 rule, where 90% of the time you're going to eat right and you're going to exercise. And then that 10%, take a day off of your workout and go have that nice steak meal or whatever you're going to have. But I think the difficult part is that 90-10 or that 80-20 all of a sudden turns the other way.
Yeah.
And you don't step back in the health and fitness kind of path. You step off the path and you stay there. And, what also happens is that some people, they jump on the fitness path, right? And they're, no, I'm going to do it 100% of the time. And that works for 10 days. And then oh, by the way, we got a football game we're going to watch, or something happens. and they're off, and then they're off for another 2 years, and then they get back on. And and I think that's the important part of setting some things that are goals, and figure out what really motivates you. What's going to keep you stepping onto that fitness path? Like you had talked about, for you, it's general health, keeping up with your children and your grandkids possibly at someday, or and staying healthy for your family. For the firefighter at home, if they're volunteer, it's setting that example for their own kids and for their department. If you're a chief, it's hey, look, I'm taking time for fitness. You guys, I need you to be fit, because when I tell you to do something, I know that you're going to be able to do that more safely on the fire ground. And whatever that motivation may be. And sometimes we, seasonally up here in Wisconsin, we were talking about the weather. Now's the time of the year where people go, I'm in hibernation mode. It doesn't matter. My fat's covered up with 2 turtlenecks and a sweater. Why do I need to be skinny? Look, I get it, but just stay moving. Because even though, you take weight out of the picture, stay moving, because your joints need that blood flow. Your mind needs that blood flow. And, and that's what we were talking about before with the pandemic. I think mentally, more than anything, we need to just keep moving and do something physically to help our minds. But what I see a lot of times in the fire service is January's big. Everybody jumps on this, and I think they jump instead of stepping on.
Right.
First of all, they jump on it and they're going to go gangbusters. Well, you have to plan sometimes. So, for me, we had a Packer game last night, and it's big and it's tradition around Wisconsin. Obviously I couldn't meet with anybody, but had a little bit of some chicken wings or something during the game, just to what I normally do. But I'm talking to you. I'm going back to work out right after this is done. Back on track. Been eating well today, and so you have to find out what motivates you. We talked about the 5K program. Personally, it's just I wanted to start running more. What could get me to run more? Well, I joined this virtual event. We do with the challenges in January, where you complete a 60-day workout program. You send us your story, and that gets entered in a chance to win prizes, cash prizes, sweatshirts, which have been real popular, and just something to give you incentive. And sometimes you got to dig a little deeper for it, whether you're a chief or whether you're just a firefighter. If you want to become a firefighter, that should be motivation enough for you to get in shape. You got to find, I always you got to find what drives you on those days you don't want to work out. When you don't want to go get up and walk the dog is looking at you, right? I think it's great that you walk your dog every morning, because if you don't, they'll remind you, right, throughout the day.
Oh yeah, she does.
Yeah.
She's very good with that. Yeah, no, she's great. And it's funny. I think that what made that decision for me in 2017 was the words from my pain management physician, who says, you got to remember, Steve, that for every 10 pounds on your abdomen, it's a 3-to-1 ratio on the spine. So that's 30 pounds of pull on your spine.
Yeah.
And he goes, and most of your weight is right in your midsection. It wasn't all up and down my arms. My legs, are relatively thin. They would be my legs and my arms are that of a 35-year-old guy who was maybe weighed 135. I don't know why. He says, I can't tell that you never had it there as much up there, but it was all here. And I said, oh my God. So I was at 240 pounds. I said, that's a lot of pull on my back.
Yeah.
I just got the new device had been put in. I said, I can't deal with that. I just can't keep that kind of weight. And so I made that decision. I didn't talk to my wife about it. I just sat back, and we were on that vacation, and we were in North Carolina, and they went shopping, and I decided to go for a walk.
That's it.
Started small, just a little bit close around the block there at her home. And then I made the whole block for the next couple of days. And we came home, I started a path here.
Mm-hmm.
And even right after the Hurricane Irma hit in September of 2017, 2 mornings later, I was up walking my same path. Of course, I was dodging
Tree
rodents,
branches, probably, right?
tree branches on the road. Well, we didn't get picked up for almost 2 months, our brush piles from the stuff, but rodents, snakes, raccoons, possums.
Oh yeah.
5:30 in the morning, it's pitch dark. I was wearing I wore a reflective vest and it carried a flashlight. No dog with me in the first part. And I would do that walk. And had headphones on. I'd listen to a podcast, listen to music. And so I was keeping myself entertained. I was keeping myself informed when I was listening to in the podcast. I listened to almost all firefighter podcasts.
Yeah.
And that was my path. I wasn't alone. My wife supported it, but on that path, I had the people with me in my head,
Yeah.
in my earphones, and I kept walking. And she said, "Well, maybe you shouldn't walk now." I said, "Why? We're picked up. There's no more storm. I can go
Yeah.
outside. I just got to dodge the brush piles and everything else." And uh, just it just worked between that and watching what I was eating, and a good start brought me down to where I was. And now I guess it's been about another year. I've dropped probably another, not intentionally, but I think as we talked off air, I think I'm finally getting rid of that adipose fat,
Yeah.
which is the hardest fat for the body to get rid of.
It's the last that goes.
Yeah.
It's the last that first that comes, last that goes,
Yeah.
But you're, and I'm hoping that somebody who's listening to this too, you mentioned support, and that was the idea behind, look, same with you, why you created the podcast. I'm hoping somebody can get something out of us if we can affect one person, and if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I know I need to do something, I don't know where to go, just send me a message. We have programs for you. We have we created a Facebook group. Now we have about 2,600 people that are following the FRF programs, and they just help each other. Sometimes people post like, struggling. I haven't worked out in a couple of days, and someone else says, look, it happens to me too. Just next day is a new day.
Right.
And I think the one thing is that you're not in this alone. Whether it's mental health that you're dealing with, or it's fitness, or health in general, we all have these same things. I'll tell you, people always look at me and they go, well, you're the fitness guy, so you work out all the time. I'll tell you what, yesterday I went for a run, and if it weren't for my neighbors started doing a walking group. And one of them has health issues where they it's a struggle for them to walk, and I looked at that and I'm like, they're out there doing it. I'm putting my shoes on, and I opened the door and I went. And, so we have, personally, I struggle with those sometimes too, I crush ice cream like the other guys do too. I mean, I have those moments, and even my pro athletes, there's times where they were not motivated to work out, even though they're getting paid $3 million. It's tough. We all go through it. So you're not alone. If you're 100 pounds you got to lose. Look, it starts with 1 pound, because that 1 pound you didn't gain 100 pounds overnight. You're not going to lose 100 pounds overnight, but you have to reverse that trend for your own health and for that of your families, and that of your crews. And I just, I think the biggest takeaway from today is that, look, during that pandemic, there are other things that are going on that you don't realize that fitness can help you with. And now through this next segment is, how can you sustain health and fitness because you need to, for your family, for your crew, for your own department. So how can you do that? It starts with one step at a time, right? It starts with, one healthy choice at a time when you're eating. And you have support here through the podcast. You got support through what we're trying to build with FRF for you. So, and finding that goal, I think a lot of times, as you start your journey, it becomes more clear because you start feeling better, right?
Absolutely.
Like you started walking, but then, we talk, all of a sudden, like that one notch in your belt was all you needed to get you to work out the next 3 weeks, right?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. And so that builds on it, one small goal builds on the next, and you would be surprised. I think this is the other point, that we can maybe end with here is, we talk about the fire service, and we have a lot of health issues. We have cancer, we have obesity, we have heart disease, we have stroke. cooking in the fire service, I cook fairly healthy. I try to, and people are thankful. A lot of people will pull me aside and they go, thank you for doing that, because I don't feel bloated when I leave in the morning. I feel like I have more energy. And I think a lot of us in the fire service, we're still inhibited by our culture, our hey, this isn't right. But there's a big push towards, we understand we need fitness. We understand. So, hey, I get asked a lot, hey, what are we doing for a workout today? Which is like, I don't know. I'll come up with something. We're going to go do this. And I believe that there's more people that understand the importance of health and are wanting to make those healthy choices than there are not. And I think that the fire service culture has changed, and it is changing. And this is a healthy thing. I'm not trying to get rid of any of our traditions. I believe that we can actually build on traditions by helping each other out.
Sure.
But I believe that there are more people that want to get healthy and want to be healthy, and want to be held accountable for their health. And so, I can't thank you enough. It's opportunities like this that get me to get, and I almost want to turn my hat on backwards and say, all right, here, now we're getting to what we really want to talk about. But I believe that we are making some great strides. But it comes down to looking in the mirror and figuring out what motivates you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there are resources out there to help you. There's this podcast, there's FRF, the IAFC has some good stuff on their website. You've done some great podcasts on this. I believe now is the prime time for all of us to look at, we need to make these changes to help each other out.
Very
right?
true. Absolutely. So let's do this for the listeners and viewers. What's the email they can reach you at?
The best email is zamzowfitness@gmail, which is just my last name,
Yep.
ZAMZOWFITNESS@gmail.com.
Yeah. Okay.
You can also reach me if you go to www.firerescuefitness.com. There's a contact me button.
www.fire. Was it Fire Fitness or Firefighter Fitness?
Fire Rescue Fitness.
FireRescueFitness.com.
Yep.
Okay. And on Facebook?
Yep. We have a Facebook page. It's Fire Rescue Fitness, all one word.
Fire Rescue Fitness. Okay. And Instagram?
It's at GetFRFit.
Yeah. FR Fit. Okay.
Yep.
And on Twitter, I think Twitter is the same thing, isn't it?
Yep. Actually, I think it's GetFRF on Instagram, and the best way, I'll be honest, like I don't Twitter as much, I don't Instagram as much. I do more just one-on-one emails and Facebook.
All right, great. Well, you're gonna send me the link to the new program. We'll put that on. We're gonna put that on Zam's bio piece on our guest list. So what you do is you're going to go to the website and put your cursor over the word podcast, and then you'll see guests, and they'll bring you to the guest page. And on the right side is an index. And all you do is look for Aaron Zamzow and click that, and it'll bring it up. And then we're going to have that link at the bottom of his profile on that page, which we have to update anyway, since it's been a while since he's been
Right.
So, Aaron, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I'm glad everything fell together the way we both needed it to. Definitely, let's plan on after the launch of the contest, the big contest. Let's make a plan to get together again and see how that's going. I think 2 years ago we actually had one of you winners on. And we spoke with two of them through audio before we started Zooming on the audio side. So I think that's great, because that's another motivation. When you hear somebody like the gentleman you just described before,
Josh,
from nearly 500 pounds down to 290, there's no doubt that there is determination. There was fatigue, and then there was determination again.
Yeah.
And he kept, and those two kept fighting, but if he dropped all that weight, the determination won out on those battles. And he's a great example. And the gentleman that won a couple of years ago, who lost, I think, nearly 100 pounds also, and he was the top winner. I mean, again, this was somebody who had lived a regular life, gained a lot of weight, but wanted to feel better. and took the challenge and wound up winning it.
Yeah.
And lost nearly 100 pounds. And I can tell you, even with my back was my motivation, but you don't necessarily need an injury to be your motivation.
We hope that that you get motivated before that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You want to be motivated before an injury. And that's something else we didn't even mention, but we should mention that being fit for duty will help you avoid those severe injuries.
It can. Yep.
That can help you avoid, especially where you're using your shoulder power, your back power, your leg power, your lower spine as part of what you're doing. If you take care of yourself, those muscles are conditioned and they're good. So there's less of a chance of a muscle strain or a muscle pull. Not a guarantee, but there's less of a chance when when your body's in good shape. So,
and if it happens, you're more likely to recover a little quicker than those that are deconditioned.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And the whole thing too, like you mentioned, Josh lost 100 pounds, but we have other winners that didn't lose any weight at all, but they quit smoking, they stopped drinking sodas, and they lowered their cholesterol, they lowered their blood pressure, they started sleeping better, they a couple people lost body fat, so it's everybody's got their own story, their own journey. It's we just are trying to help you figure that out and feel motivation through the path and guide you with great resources and workouts. And your journey is a little bit different than mine, but there's similarities with all of ours.
Right. Exactly.
And I think that was the other point that we really hit home was, it doesn't matter what your journey is. We're all going through that. Boy, I don't want to do it today. I can't thank you enough for the support, and it's always great to talk to you. And
you too.
There's so many reasons to stay fit, and let's hope you find one. Hopefully, you don't wait until you get injured, or hope you don't. You're not on that call where you go, "Oh man, I was not. I need to get shape because this is not good." But we're here for you, for when you do and when you want to make those changes. We're here for you.
Very good. Sounds great. Aaron, again, my sincere thanks, and really appreciate everything you're doing. Folks, remember, keep an eye on Firehouse Magazine and on FR1, because that's where you'll see a lot of Aaron's work there. And again, we've given you the ways to contact him. And you can always contact us at the podcast at dalmatprod@outlook.com, especially if you're suffering from a back problem, a chronic back problem. And I'll be happy to tell you my story, what happened and what it did to me in the negative, and then what I decided to turn around and use as a positive impetus for me to start getting healthier again. And I feel a lot better that way. So my thanks to you. Stay safe and stay well, and we'll stay in touch. And we'll be back hopefully in about 4 or 5 months.
Yes, January, February. Look forward to it.
Okay, sounds good. Hi, folks. I just want to add one point. As you heard us mention during the podcast, here at 5 Alarm Task Force, we created a new nonprofit company, 5 Alarm Task Force Corp. And the whole purpose is based on our motto: one family, one mission, first responders helping each other. And that's what we want to do. We know that many of you have gone through difficult times, especially during this pandemic. But it's not just a pandemic. Life throws us curves, real bad and fast curveballs. And sometimes it's difficult to recover. We want you to know that we want to try to help. And very soon we're going to put out an email that you can address, that you can send your story to us. And the 3 members of our panel will vet that with you, vet the story, and we'll try to help you. But the only way we can help other first responders and firefighters in particular is if you help us. And that's by donating to our program. This is how you do it. We're a nonprofit. So check with your tax advisor to see if a donation you make to us will be tax deductible for you. That's number 1. Number 2, you can go to our website. Right now, we're still at dalmatianproductions.tv. We'll very soon, probably by the end of this week, we should be transitioning to our new URL, which is www.5, the number 5, dash alarmtaskforcecorp.org. Either way, on most of our pages, you'll see the donate buttons. You can donate through PayPal. You do not have to have a PayPal account. You can use any debit card or credit card that you have that you prefer. And then you also get to choose which fund you'd like it to go to. Would you like it to go to our operations fund that helps support the work that we do to have the podcast and what it takes to do so? Or you can donate to the foundation. And it's from the foundation that we'll disperse small checks. Well, maybe large. I don't know. It all depends how much money we bring in. But we'll disperse funds to help you when we vet your story. That's what it's all about. 5 Alarm Task Force Corp. It's much more than just this little podcast. It's about helping each other. So when you visit, take a moment. We really don't care about the amount. $1, $5, $10, whatever you can afford. Please don't put yourself out and hurt yourself financially just by making a donation to us. We don't want that to happen. But whatever you give will help. And when you do, we're going to try to make sure you get a thank you note from each of us. So our thanks for your continued support, listening, and viewing. And we'll see you on the next time. Stay safe and stay well. Bye-bye.